Hello and welcome back to Umineko. When last we left off, we saw a fantastical magical battle, and Battler had trouble reckoning with that. There would have been no way to tell that morning had come without opening a window and looking up at the cloudy sky, which had become a tiny bit lighter. It wasn't a refreshing morning. All that could be heard was the sound of the rain, which hadn't stopped falling since last night, and the howl of the wind. It's hard to imagine that it's morning. This horrible weather speaks for our hearts. Hey, it could be worse. At least it's just rain and not spears falling from the sky. Whether it's rainy or spears, it's coming down with a bang. Is it already 6 a.m.? Isn't this enough? After this, we've got no measures we can take till the mystery 19th person, Beatrice, makes her move. True. However, I believe we have anticipated every trick they might use against us. That's right. As long as a traitor doesn't appear among the siblings, we should be able to deal with most situations. Haven't we talked about this enough? We've stayed up all night. I'm tired. You're right. How about taking a little rest after eating breakfast? A good plan. Staying up all night is trying at our age. As they all stretched, they enjoyed this unrefreshing morning as best they could. I'll go wash my face or something. I probably look horrible. What is that awful stench? As soon as they exited into the corridor, Kyrie openly made a disgusted expression. What is it? Hey, don't you smell something awful? What is the stench? I can't stand it. After hearing those complaints, everyone stuck their head out into the corridor. The stench was faint, but once people started commenting on it, it was clearly noticeable. Each of them went into the corridor, relying on their own sense of smell to tell them where the strange odor was coming from. What in the world could it be? Let us have Genji deal with it. I believe he should already have arrived in the servant room to begin the morning preparations. Indeed, please do. At the very least, it's difficult to imagine Goda making a breakfast that would cause such an odor. Rudolph and the others searched for the source of the smell and determined that it was coming from underground, from the boiler room. But the door was locked and they couldn't check inside. At the same time, when Natsuhi's group was on its way to search for someone in the servant room, they noticed something strange near the parlor. What is this? What horrible prank? Who would do something like this? On the door to the parlor, drawn in a paint that looked like blood, was a strange thing that looked like a magic circle. There's no one in the kitchen yet. What is that? Ava's group, who thought the smell might be coming from the kitchen, had returned after confirming that no one was there, and that preparations for breakfast had not yet begun. Then they noticed the change to the parlor. It's useless, the boiler room's locked. Wouldn't that be bad if something went wrong with the boiler? Has anyone spotted a servant? Is one of those vulgar scribbles here too? There was another one on the door to the boiler room. What's that? This creepy scribble isn't just here, but it's in the other places too? Ha! You don't think this is the Witch of the Forest Beatrice declaration of war, do you? Hideyoshi tried to make fun of it, but staring at this creepy magic circle while listening to the wind and rain really made it seem like a message from a witch. The dripping, bright red paint made one think of blood, which made it even creepier. Hideyoshi tried to open the door, but it had been locked. As a general rule, the parlor wasn't locked. Someone had gone out of their way to lock it. What does this mean? Could it be that while we were talking in the dining hall, someone secretly left this scribble? On the doors to the parlor and the boiler room? I'm sure the servants are behind this. We were together the whole time. We all have alibis. They probably received some strange order from father and pulled this prank. And there's also the case yesterday with Maria-chan's letter. It's really easy to suspect that the servants are acting on Dad's orders and planning something. Anyway, where is everyone? They can't be playing hide and seek. Let's look for them. Before that, I'm worried about the children. They are safe, right? I'll go and check, and while I'm there, I'll see if there aren't any servants there. Now let's split up. While you go to the guest house and see how the brats are doing, we'll investigate inside the mansion. I don't want to think about it, but maybe these creepy magic circles aren't just in the places we found them already. We might be wrapped up in some bizarre game of fathers. I will go to him and hear the situation. Though I doubt he'll obediently listen to me. The adults split up. As a result, they confirmed that the 4 children were safe in the so-called cousin's room on the 2nd floor of the guest house. They had apparently stayed up late last night playing. All of them were snoring loudly, so Rosa decided not to wake them. Furthermore, Nanjo, who had returned early the previous night to rest, was also safe. It seemed he believed in the phrase, early to bed, early to rise, and had awoken refreshed. During that time, Kirie and Hideyoshi searched for the servants. But they didn't find them. The servant room in the guest house was also empty. The children are safe. They all stayed up too late last night. The servant room is empty. I looked at the shift chart and the morning shift begins at 6. They should have started working by now. The nap room is also empty. There were signs that a futon had been slept in, but it wasn't warm. Hey, is no one's reasoning right on this? This is probably a game Father set up. He must have left those creepy scribbles and hid himself somewhere, trying to make us do something. Are you saying he's trying to see who's fit to succeed his wealth and the headship? Isn't that a bit... No. It might not be strange if Father was behind something like that. After all, Father loves doing things on a big scale. This might have been a finely tuned plan starting as far back as when the epitaph was hung in the hall. In that case, I wonder if they'll give us an announcement of the game or some explanation of it. It certainly would be nice if an envelope with the crest, like the one handed to Maria-chan, were to appear. That's right. Maybe Nissan and the rest have found something like that in the mansion. Dr. Nanja, have you heard anything about this? My apologies. I have no idea what's going on. And yet, yes, certainly. I could easily imagine Kenzo-san planning something on a big scale. Shouldn't we go back to the mansion for now? Maybe they found something over there. If I won't be in the way, I shall go too. I'll stay here. The children are sleeping upstairs. We don't know what's happening. We cannot leave them alone. That's right. I'll stay with Rosa-san and watch over the place. Would you tell that to my husband? Rosa and Kyrie remained in the guest house. Hideyoshi went with Nanjo and returned again to the mansion. At the same time, in the mansion, in a way that was hard to believe, or maybe we should say in a way that gave him a bad feeling, Rudolph's prediction was spot on. The same magic circle graffiti that had been drawn on the doors to the boiler room and the parlor had been found in multiple places throughout the mansion. Aniki, how's Dad? It was no use. I received no response. I tried putting my ear against the door, but I couldn't sense anyone. There's no sign of any of the servants. Where in the world did they disappear to? This isn't funny. Father and the servants are hiding, and there are strange magical circles all over the mansion. What in the world is happening? There weren't only magical circles on the door to the boiler room and the door to the parlor. There were 2 on the 2nd floor, and 1 on the 3rd floor, for a total of 5. They were all the same magic circle, and all of the doors had been locked, so they couldn't check inside the rooms. Anyway, let's do something about the boiler room first. It'd be bad if something broke down and caught fire or exploded. So we need the key. It should be in the key box in the servant room. They fished through that key box. Because each of the servants carried their master keys around, those weren't kept there. However, all of the individual keys should have been there. I can't believe they managed to fit so many keys in there. It isn't here. No matter how much we look, the key to the boiler room isn't here. Look, Aniki. Only the keys to the rooms with those magical circles drawn on them are totally missing. It's true. How bothersome. It's as though someone didn't want us to go into the rooms with the magic circles. No, they went to all the trouble of making those magic circles obvious, so maybe they wanted us to enter. I think it's the latter. This isn't a movie, so breaking down the door is probably impossible. Smashing a window might do the trick, though. For a while, Kraus pondered over whether this situation really called for smashing a window. At that time, Hideyoshi and Nanjo returned. There was nothing strange in the guest house, and the children were safe. They told the others that Rosa and Kyrie had stayed to watch over the place. Good morning. I heard that something strange has happened. Good morning, Dr. Nanjo. I apologize for waking you so early in the morning. What is it? Did you find a letter or something? I was sure you'd have found something like that by now. You're right. I also believe this to be a massive joke or a game of fathers. But if that's the case, there should be some letter telling us about it. Like the letter that was given to Maria-chan. What if Maria-chan's letter actually was the announcement, telling us that the game was on? The rules of the game, try solving the riddle of the epitaph, have already been made clear. Then what might the 5 magic circles we found at the mansion represent? And the missing servants? Natsuhime-san, how many servants were there today in total? Huh? Genji, Goda... 5 of them, but why? So, there are 5 servants. There are also 5 magic circles. It's probably a coincidence, but I don't like it. Nisan, let's break a window. We should check and see what's inside. We have no choice. Do it neatly. Kraus made his decision and gave permission to smash a window. and he decided that the first room they would break into should be the parlor on the first floor, where the windows would be easiest to reach. They had hoped to peek in through the window, but the curtains were down, so they couldn't see inside. Rudolph wandered around the garden, trying to find something that would be good for smashing the window. Eventually, he found a rock bigger than a fist and came back. You don't have to smash the whole thing, just open it enough so that you can reach the lock. Don't get your hopes up, okay? Rudolph raised the rock and hit the glass with it several times. Eventually, he succeeded in opening a hole big enough that he could unlock it from the outside. Covering his hand with a handkerchief, he stuck his hand through that hole and cautiously unlocked it. We should probably cover it with packing tape later. The rain will get blown in. When he suddenly opened the window, the wind and rain made the curtain dance around violently. That curtain was blown to the side. They could see into the parlor they knew well. They were a little relieved. They'd thought there might be another bizarre magic circle inside the room, or possibly the traces of some creepy ceremony. In any event, they didn't want to hang around out in the rain. So the 6 of them, Kraus, Natsuhi, Ava, Hideyoshi, Rudolph, and Nanjo, entered the parlor as a group. It seems that nothing in particular has changed. What's wrong, Shannon? Wait, are you okay? What happened to you? Blood! Dr. Nanjo, take a look at this! Hey, Shan, are you okay? Answer me. You mustn't shake her. I will examine her condition now. She had been in the shadow of the sofa, so they hadn't noticed her until they'd entered the room. Shannon was lying on the floor, her chest stained bright red with blood. Hey, Battler, where are you? Look, Shannon's corpse has turned up. See? I won't bully you anymore, so come out. Oh, there you are. What are you doing clutching at your head in a place like that? Battler was crouching under the table, holding his head. His pitiful figure made it plainly clear that he didn't want to see anything, didn't want to hear anything. Had he heard Beatrice's sneering voice? Could he not hear? Or was he pretending that he couldn't hear? In any event, it was clear that he'd closed up his heart like a shell. Perhaps you tormented him too much, milady. After showing him all that and demanding a counter-argument, I can understand why he'd want to mope around. Hey, Battler. If you can't argue back, then resign, okay? It's your turn. If you don't make some move or pass, or else give up, we won't get anywhere. Huh? What's that? I can't hear you. I said be quiet! Shut up! A witch? Magic? Why don't you just do whatever you want? I don't believe any of it. Damn it! Don't talk to me! Don't show me anything! Disappear! Just disappear! Don't get that annoying face near me! Beatrice winced reflexively at Battler's sudden rage. Even if you say that, Even if you don't finish your turn, then my turn won't come. In fact, I'm the one asking you to stop boring me.
Who cares? Be quiet! Shut up! Who cares about your game? I won't go along with it. If your turn won't come until mine's finished, then just wait for all eternity. I don't get it. I won't accept witches or magic. I won't accept something that's screwed up. Whoa, I said don't talk to me.
I don't know what's what anymore. After being shown something that screwed up, how could I resist? I wandered aimlessly through the rose garden. It was raining and windy, but that didn't mean my body got wet. There was just a feeling of isolation as I wandered amidst the wind and rain without an umbrella. Maybe I lost in that person's game a long time ago. Actually, didn't we already have a clear winner and loser in the last game? After all, I surrendered for a time. That's why the world was tinted with witches and magic. Right now, Rokkenjima's a different world, where witches stride around openly and fire off strange spells. It isn't a matter of accepting it or denying it. Maybe I mistakenly assumed that I was playing a game on an even footing with Byato. Maybe I was already defeated in the last game, and this is just the signing ceremony of my surrender. A minute ago, a terrible battle unfolded in this rose garden. I saw it with my own eyes. I kicked the ground. Obviously, the ground was hard, and water from a puddle splashed. Several towers had split this ground, spreading like high-rise buildings. The more I kicked this ground, the more it felt like that it couldn't possibly have happened. But for that very reason, I couldn't explain it with anything other than magic anymore. If it was a closed room with a key shut up inside, I'd know it was probably an extension of stuff you often see in detective novels. But that big flashy thing? Damn it. It seems my disciple has caused you much trouble.
Huh? It's you.
Someone suddenly spoke to me, so I turned around. And in the rose garden arbor was the predecessor Beatrice, whom Beatrice had supposedly defeated a short while ago.
I was sure you died, so you survived.
No, I did die. Now I have nothing more than a defeated chess piece loitering outside the chessboard.
You're Byato's teacher, right? So in other words, you're a witch too.
Yes, that is correct.
So basically, that means witches really do exist. And the only one who can defeat her isn't me. That'd be you, since you can use also magic, right? I'm just useless now. There's nothing I can do anymore.
Oh my. Have you surrendered completely?
What do you mean, surrender? How am I supposed to explain that? Towers spreading and falling. Huge giants holding shields and throwing spears. Just remember it makes me feel like I'm going insane. We're way past the point of trying to reason this all out, aren't we? We've left the level of tricks and things that can be explained with human culprits. Damn it.
Calm yourself. I am nothing more than a piece on that child's game board. After being removed from that board, I am no longer a being capable of doing anything. But you are that child's opponent. As long as you do not give up on your own, you will always have the power to strike back.
Shut up! Weren't you also reciting strange spells and summoning towers and spears? What do you mean, strike back? Are you saying you'll teach me magic too and make me take part in that massive magic battle?
If you wish, I could teach you a bit about magic.
Oh, just what I wanted. Please, give me some awesome magic to smash through a chest in one blow. Ha, don't screw with me.
I hear that in Japanese magic there is a ceremony used to pray for rain. Do you know of it?
A rain ceremony? The thing where you throw stuff into a fire and dance as an offering? That's not magic. They say that the fire causes an updraft, which makes rain clouds gather. That's supposed to be an accepted scientific phenomenon.
Oh? I believed it to be a form of Eastern magic. But is that not the case? I believed people offered sacred fire to the heavens, as well as a dance of respect, so that your entreaty for rain would reach the hearts of the gods.
Maybe people did that long ago, but most occult things like that have a scientific explanation.
Why do things burn? Isn't that because phlogiston is contained in the material?
No, things burn because of a chemical reaction. Lavoisier abolished the phlogiston theory.
Why does heat transfer through objects? Isn't that because caloric is contained in the material?
I'm pretty sure that was abolished by Joule. Heat is energy, not a substance.
You have studied well. Your knowledge is accurate.
It's just some trivia.
Phlogiston, caloric, and eventually ether and God's love, all are powerless before a scientific explanation. In the past, I was told that an apple falling from a tree was thanks to God's love, so that humans would be given food.
So even gravity is the love of God? Well, that's probably the remnants from the period when religion rather than science was used to explain everything.
That is correct. In the past, humans called the limits of their knowledge... No, ignorance itself, magic. Like the rain ceremony we were just talking about. Did the people of ancient times realize that there was a scientific explanation? That fire gave rise to heat to cause updraft that summoned clouds? Even without understanding these things, they at least knew the result.
That probably happened a lot. That stuff called knowledge of the ancestors.
Even without understanding the reason,
through long experience, they knew that they'd achieve results. Phenomena whose principles they didn't understand were probably the same as magic to them.
Like this person just said, ancient people who didn't understand those principles probably believed that, though through the rain ceremony, their wishes would reach the heavens and make rain fall. To them, that was certainly magic, as long as they didn't understand updrafts. If you push an electrical switch, a light turns on. Children do not know the scientific principles behind why a light bulb lights up. They only know the result when they push the switch. If they obtain such a result without knowing the principles, doesn't that make it magic to them?
That's pretty interesting. Well, logically, that's true. For example, I don't have a clue why the Braun tubes in a TV show a picture. Still, I think it's totally normal to see things shown on a TV. Even if I don't understand the principles behind Braun tubes, I at least know that if I push the switch, I can watch TV. It's exactly the same as having a rain ceremony without understanding updrafts. In other words,
If I don't know the principles, even TV is the same as magic. Or even magic itself, I guess. Do you know the structure of Braun tubes? Have you ever taken one apart and looked inside? Nope. I think I read about it in a book or something once, but it was complicated and I didn't have a clue. I think that when electrons hit a fluorescent material, it creates luminescence, or something like that. That book lied. Actually, there are small people called gremlins shut up inside the Braun tubes, and they do their work with magic. Huh? Don't be stupid, there's no way that's true. How can you deny it if you have never looked inside a Braun tube? I've never looked inside, but I can say for sure that small people like that definitely don't exist. Since there are no Braun tubes here, that is impossible to prove. Yeah, it's impossible to prove right now. But later I can take apart a TV somewhere and show you, and instantly win the argument. So, put another way, my magical theory that gremlins are shut up inside the Braun tubes and display the picture with magic is impossible to disprove until we can verify the contents of a Braun tube, correct? What the hell? Is this one of those? Are you trying to say it's a devil's proof? That's a favorite trick of you witches. A devil's proof is a bit of sophistry, one that takes advantage of the fact that negative facts are impossible to prove. However, it's different from my Braun tubes metaphor. That could be resolved simply by taking apart a single television. You're right. It isn't really a devil's proof. You have proposed a scientific theory, and I have proposed a magical one. One of those is the truth, and which one it is can be ascertained the moment you look inside a Braun tube. However, until the instant that happens, we cannot deny each other's theories. So even though only one truth exists, until you look into the Braun tube, you can have two conflicting truths existing at the same time. You have a realm in which the two truths can exist simultaneously, even though there must be only one truth in existence. Is the cat in the box alive or dead? If you open the box, you will learn the answer. You will learn the truth. However, until you open the box, you can claim that the cat is alive, and you can also claim that it is dead. Both claims are the correct truth according to the people making them. And even though the two sides are in conflict, neither can win the argument as long as the box remains unopened. In other words, two truths can exist at the same time. Even though there can only be one cat in the box, it is packed with a living cat and a dead cat, forming a strange, separate world. That is what Rokkenjima is now. This island is now a different world where a scientific theory and a magical one can exist at the same time. To a resident of the world of science, such as yourself, at a glance it may feel as though this island has been sucked into a world of magic. That might not be wrong, but it is not accurate. Strictly speaking, it has been moved from the world of science to the gap between the world and the world of magic. Between that world and the world of magic. So, at a glance, it appears to you as though the world is tilted towards the magical side. But in reality, this island is now in a perfectly impartial position with relation to those two opposing worlds. I don't really get it. The gap between reality and magic? A perfectly impartial world? How's that? Hasn't pretty much everything that's happened been totally not in my favor? Then perhaps you could think of it this way. This is a trial. Think of it as a court where you and Beatrice are laying out opposing claims. Call it a brown tube trial. Your opponent claims that there are tiny people inside the brown tubes, explaining one thing after another, talking about the lives of these tiny people, what they look like, what type of magical power they have. And what do you do? Well, I study in a library and argue back by explaining how brown tubes are constructed. At this moment, both your claim and that child's claim exist in the court at the same time. If you find your opponent's claim convincing, it might sound like truth to you, it might look like truth to you. That is exactly what you saw. At this moment on Rakajima, witches and magic certainly exist as truth. However, until the moment that the cat's box is opened, that world is an uncertain wave function. The entire situation can be explained by both sides at the same time. However, there is one truth. That set of truth shrinks with observation, and countless truths are weeded out to become one truth. It is like when, in court, the judge hands down his judgment. The two truths from the prosecutors and the defense's claims are reduced in number by the judgment and become one. To say it in your words, this island right now is the world, right before looking into a brown tube, right? Therefore, the science theory and the magic theory cannot be denied. And since they cannot be denied, both can exist as truth. Therefore, both witches and magic can exist. However, at the same time, your opinion of denial also exists as truth. It is a world where two conflicting things can exist at once. And it is a world where conflicting truths cannot disprove each other. Have you managed to understand? In other words, no matter how much awesome magic Beato shows me, it's only a claim of a magical theory and doesn't disprove my position. So no matter what kind of magic Beato shows me in this world, it cannot become proof that magic exists. That's right. That child might even try to explain an apple falling from a tree with magic, perhaps by shaking her staff and magically plucking the apple, then claiming to be the thing that made it drop down to the earth. However, that would be nothing more than another claim. None of your opponent's claims can prevent you from making yours. In that sense, this world is quite impartial to both sides. I get it. Still, by that argument, if I show a sound argument with my science theory, and it collides head-on with her magic theory, I also can't win against her. On top of that, the final judgment won't come until we peek into the brown tube. Where is the brown tube in this world? Because it exists, there should be no reason for us to argue. Why don't we just get along and peek into the brown tube? If there really is a tiny person in there, it's my complete loss. Otherwise, it's my victory. Why do we have to hold this debate without looking into the brown tube? That itself is the game you are being challenged to. Maybe instead of a court, I should use chess as an example. There, victory and loss are not determined by a judge. You who fight will decide it yourselves. Can you win in an argument with an opponent in a screwed up world or multiple truths can exist at the same time. In actual fact, didn't you lose an argument and surrender like this? Heh. Heh. That is all the advice I can give you now. If you wish, I can occasionally offer you counsel. Sure. Thanks, that really helps. I'll avenge you. Oh, thank you. I look forward to it. What's your name? Beatrice used to be my name, but now that I've surrendered it, I do not have a name. So, I shall take a temporary name. Virgilius. No. How about Virgilia? Virgilia? Like Valkyria? Wasn't that a name for goddesses that show up in myths? No. It means the guide who leads the way to Beatrice. I will guide you to that child who waits at the summit of Mount Purgatory. It ought to be a fitting name for such a guide. Also, with that, do we finally have a profile for Virgilia? Yeah! And she's... oh. It's never occurred to me before to look at the colors? Okay. Oh, this is interesting. So blood, I guess, tying all of the Ushiromiyas. And then servants are just attached by blue. I never thought about the fact that there were separate colors here. And the fact that there's a golden link is interesting here. Virgilia, a now retired Endless Witch and Beatrice's teacher. Oops, sorry. Bad habit I need to fix. She used the endless magic properly and devoted her life to the smiles and happiness of many people. She taught Beatrice the endless magic, believing that Beatrice would also devote herself to the people, and retired. Though she was Beatrice's teacher, she was also a magician employed by Beatrice's family. For that reason, she interacted with Beatrice in a manner fitting for a servant. Some point to this as the source of Beatrice's arrogance and recklessness. Who would have guessed I'd accept help from a witch when I'm trying to deny witches? I see. If this is a contradictory world where different claims can exist at the same time, I guess that's cool. It's almost funny. I am borrowing that child's words, but you truly are like a phoenix. Your will to fight has already been revived. Come, if your heart is prepared, return to your opponent. Return to the chessboard where that child is seated. I look forward to seeing how far you can fight with my disciple. Yeah, watch it. I won't listen to her babbling anymore. I'll coolly fight to the end. I definitely won't get provoked by her any longer. Then let us return to the seat of the battle. Oh, battler! Where did you run off to? And I thought losers never came back for more. Sorry to keep you waiting. I've cooled my head a little. And did you think of a response to that pleasant, thrilling, refreshing, highly acclaimed, wonderful fantasy battle between teacher and me? Isn't that impossible to explain without fantasy? Milady, didn't you just promise to be kind and act more gracefully? Oh no. I just got in such a good mood when I saw Battler's face, you see? Look, how are you going to respond to that battle just now, battler?
Battle? What battle?
What?
In this rose garden. Where do you see those spirits? And towers you made lying around? They aren't here, are they? In other words, it's just like the inside of a brown tube.
The inside of a brown tube? What in the world are you talking about?
At this very moment, there's nothing at all in the rose garden. Towers may have been spread with magic until a short while ago. However, that's only the case until we see what's inside the brown tube. That magical battle is nothing more than your interpretation, your claim. The fact that there's absolutely nothing to see here now proves it. This is how I argue back about that witch's battle just now. Right now, there isn't anything here, which proves that nothing happened.
Come now, of course I can't make a huge mess when it's only the first twilight. And I am rather fond of that rose garden, you see. To prevent any damage, I had the fight occur inside a barrier. So it's only natural that it wouldn't have any influence on reality.
That's your claim? Well, I guess that works. However, at this point in time, there is nothing in the rose garden. So nothing stands in the way of my claim that there was no magic done here.
Wait, can you deny my magic with a mess like that? It is impossible to prove that magic does not exist. It's a devil's proof.
At this point in time, this garden is the truth. The instant you look inside, the tiny people inside the brown tube will vanish. And there are no traces of magic here at all. So that battle between you and witches did not take place.
What the... that counter? That power... Could it be?
Have you forgotten, milady? It is the multi-layered worlds reduction technique. The power of a finite witch, the counter to the power of an endless witch. Only an endless witch can perceive it, and it is most effective against such a witch.
Schrodinger's cat box? That old hag of a witch, what an uncalled for hint.
We've lost time. Including the 5 servants and grandfather, there are 6 corpses. Let me check the scene. I've been trudging along, wasting time. From now on, I'll speed things up, okay? Take a seat, Beatrice. It's finally the first twilight, isn't it? Let's start the real thing. Show me what you got.
And now we rewind. The timey stuff is going a little funny in this section. It's interesting. And I think we'll keep going because it's not even been a full hour yet. So don't know if we'll finish the full section, but we'll see if there's a good stopping point maybe halfway through. Forget what the adults expected. At least for us kids, these were supposed to be a fun couple of days where the cousins deepened their friendship. However, when we woke up, there was an unbelievably cruel reality waiting for us. George, Aniki, and Jessica were crying over Shannon-chan and Kanon-kun's deaths. Right now, everyone who was alive had gathered in the lobby on the first floor of the guest house. And there were 12 people there. Unbelievable, right? There were 18 until yesterday. And in one night, a third of that number had lost their lives. I eventually sobered up from my agitation, and, along with my lack of sleep from being woken up so early in the morning, I was beginning to feel a faint sense of unreality. I want to think this is some kind of bad dream. My cheap escapism keeps telling me that over and over. Maria had gone back to sleep on the sofa Rosa was sitting in. Rather than her having nerves of steel, she probably genuinely hadn't had enough sleep. The adults were holding items from what was apparently grandfather's collection. Short-barrel Winchester rifles. Apparently relics from a time he'd been obsessed with westerns. There were 4 guns altogether. Those had been split up among the 4 siblings. Uncle Kraus, Aunt Ava, my dad, and Aunt Rosa. Paper boxes filled with bullets lay on the table, and the siblings were silently loading them. It's a little scary. Even now, touching one of these, I get the feeling Dad'll yell, "Don't touch that," and hit me. Isn't that great? No matter how much you touch them, you won't be hit again. I can't believe it. To think that Father would meet this kind of end. Well, I never did expect Kinzo-san to die normally in his bed. But even so, it is too horrible. Hey, I wonder if that really was Father. I think it might be a different person's corpse, used as a substitute to trick us. No, it was Father, without a doubt. You saw his toes, right? Generally speaking, there aren't many humans with 6 toes on both feet. But that doesn't mean that such people don't exist. I've heard that polydactyly isn't that rare a disease. He was a man who liked large-scale tricks, right? He might have obtained a corpse from somewhere that had the same number of toes on both feet. Ridiculous. Why would he do something like that? I'd agree if it was a normal person. But this is Father we're talking about. You can't be sure Kirie-san's talking total nonsense. After all, burning a corpse makes it hard to identify. Still, there should be a few ways to examine him from his teeth and bone structure. If the police investigated it, of course they'd be able to know whose body it was right away. The problem is that we need a telephone engineer more than the police right now. The boats probably won't come in this typhoon. So, will they arrive tomorrow? Most likely. The boat will come again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Then I believe we will be able to contact the police. It's the same for us. And the culprit. Until the typhoon passes, this island will be closed off. Just from our parents' conversation, you could probably figure out the general gist, but let's explain the situation anyway. First, early that morning. Oh, we very quickly get the update, but let's read through this section before we start reading this. In various places throughout the mansion, a total of 6 corpses, including grandfather and all the servants, had been found one after another. First, grandfather had been in the boiler room, completely burnt. The servants had died, each shut up in the rooms throughout the mansion that had magic circles drawn on them. The cause of death for the servants was uncertain, but according to Dr. Nanjo's diagnosis, there was a high likelihood that they had been stabbed by something like a spear, or possibly shot with a gun. That was why the adults had started arming themselves with Winchesters. And what made the situation even more chaotic was the fact that the telephones had become unusable. It was unknown if lightning had caused them to break down or if the culprit had broken them. At any rate, since contact with the outside had been cut off, we couldn't reach the police. So until the typhoon passes and a boat comes tomorrow morning, we'll have to protect ourselves. After all, Rokkenjima is now isolated by the typhoon. And just as we're stuck on the island, so is the culprit. It seemed that the adults had stayed up all night, holding the family conference in the mansion's dining hall the whole time. And yet, the crime had occurred in the mansion. So right when the adults had been in an uproar over money, the murderer had been killing under the same roof. They say Aunt Natsu's been strict about locking the doors and windows at the night. And yet, some suspicious person had entered and left the mansion. The adults had decided that the inside of the mansion was too large to be safe, so they had pulled out the guns and moved to the guest house, where we had been. Which brings us to the present. George Aniki had begged to see Shannon-chan's corpse, but the adults had refused, saying that he mustn't do so until the police arrived. That wasn't just because they wanted to seal all the rooms to preserve the scene. After all, the culprit who had killed 6 people was wandering about the mansion. To the Ushiromiya family right now, the mansion that should have been their home was now a danger zone that an unknown murderer could enter and leave at will. After all, it's a huge mansion. There are plenty of blind spots and dark places, and it's too vast to guarantee absolute safety with this number of people. Okay, I thought we were going to get a little summary of all the murders, but it seems like that's not coming for a bit, so let's look at these updates. Ushiromiya Kinzo. His body was found as a burnt corpse in the underground boiler room's incinerator. No evidence of a struggle was found inside the incinerator, so it's probably reasonable to assume that he was burned after his murder. Too bad this time. It was game over right from the start. Servant Genji. His body was found in the VIP room on the 2nd floor. The weapon used on him is assumed to be a gun or spear-shaped object. To thank Genji for his many years of service, let us allow him to rest in the VIP room. Servant Shannon. Her corpse was found in the parlor on the 1st floor. I'm going to skip the weapon part. Always going to be the same, I think. Let Shannon have the parlor, with its wonderful view of the rose garden on sunny days. Servant Cannon. His corpse was found in the chapel. For Cannon, the chapel. Let him continue to protect the Lord's precious place, even after death. Sorry. Misclicking. Servant Goda. His corpse was found in a waiting room on the 3rd floor. The room next to the study is fitting for him, considering how much he wanted to earn Kinzo's favor. Servant Kumasawa. Her corpse was found in the guest room on the 2nd floor. This seldom used 2nd floor guest room was her secret napping spot. Relatively speaking, the guest house was much smaller. It had 2 above ground stories. Something like 10 or so rooms? Apparently, it had originally been constructed to serve as a small hotel as part of the plan to turn this island into a resort. So it was easier to know what was going on everywhere inside it, and it'd be easier to keep safe. It made for a good place to hole up in. Also, it was extremely likely that this mass murder of 6 people was a game. After all, the culprit had proclaimed so in a letter. I heard that a Western-style envelope with the family crest, just like the one Maria claimed to have received from Beatrice yesterday, had been found in the boiler room where grandfather's corpse had been discovered. This was what the letter said. So that there will be no misunderstandings. The game I seek is for everyone to try and solve the riddle of the epitaph. not for you to try and catch me. If you don't solve the riddle, the pitiful sacrifices will further increase in number. It would be wiser to spend your time solving the epitaph instead of searching for me. If no one can solve the riddle, no one will survive. If a person appears who can miraculously solve it, I will give them all the gold of the Golden Land, the Ushiromiya family headship, and all of my power. I was the one who succeeded the Ushiromiya family headship after Kinzo-sama. I look forward to seeing who will succeed to that headship after me. The Golden Witch, Beatrice. This riddle of the epitaph was that thing. That strange epitaph written by the portrait of the witch on display in the hall of the mansion. Grandfather was the one who had it written, and the person who solved it would, supposedly, be given the inheritance, or the hidden gold, or something like that. Ever since it was first put on display there several years ago, the relatives had secretly tried to solve that riddle, despite saying on the surface that the whole idea was silly. However, up until today, no one had solved it. We were once again being urged to solve that unintelligible riddle, and this time we were faced with the threat that we'd all be killed if we didn't solve it. If that wasn't a game, what else could it be? The bold opinion that we should search the premises for the culprit did come up once. However, there was a good chance they were armed, and there might not be just one of them. And while they might have been able to kill more than 6 people, they had stopped at 6. The opinion that won out in the end was that we should avoid needlessly antagonizing the culprit, and hole up in a safe place while we waited for the police to arrive. After the adults carefully checked that the doors and windows in the guest house were locked, they set up camp in the lobby. As they loaded their guns to distract themselves from the tension, their expressions showed that they were already fatigued from this long day, which had still barely begun. There was nothing for me to do. Now all I could do was be taught how to use a gun, to prepare for the off chance of something happening that led to an excess of guns. That's fine. Just obediently stay there. Me and the rest of you.
6 people in the beginning again. And this time it's grandfather and all the servants put together.
Most likely, that child has carefully studied your moves from the last game, and has made an optimal move by taking the pieces you are most likely to suspect from the start.
That makes sense. That was true both last time and the time before that. The servants, who know everything about the mansion and who walk around with keys, always fall into the most suspicious category of people. A good example in the last game would be Jessica's closed room. If I'd only accepted that a servant was the culprit, that wouldn't even have been a closed room.
And so, that child went straight for them, probably to block off a method of escape you'd be likely to attempt sooner or later.
Beato already proclaimed in red that there are no more than 18 people on this island. In other words, it's time to give up on that. Now I've got to suspect one of the 18.
That child will probably come at you by stealing the pieces for all the 18, while also making an appearance as a 19th person who shouldn't exist. For then you would be forced to accept that your opponent is a witch. After all, now that the intimidation approach has failed, trying to force you to surrender by showing you magic, the only remaining option is a frontal attack.
Perfect. Bluffing won't work anymore.
Be careful. Deception is what witches are best at. No matter what your opponent says or shows you, it will not be able to threaten the truth that you believe in. Don't forget that.
Sure. As if I'd fall for the same moves over and over. Come on out, Beatrice. Let's get started.
I am already seated at the table of the contest, and my turn is already complete. To think we would end up having Madame as our foe. This will not be easy, milady. Our moves will be read thoroughly. I care not. By now, teachers' moves are all old-fashioned classics. There's nothing to fear. So just what moves can you make beyond the classics I taught you? I look forward to seeing, Beatrice. You okay with this, battler? Can someone who denies witches really accept a witch as a strategist?
Your stupid provocation is pointless. This is my advisor. No, my second. That doesn't change one bit, that this is a fist fight between you and me.
I understand. One as wobbly as yourself probably needs training wheels on his bicycle. Do as you like. Come, let us begin. It's your turn.
Let's begin with a reconstruction of the crime scene. Virgilia, quickly please.
The first corpse discovered was Shannon's. She was found in the parlor on the first floor of the mansion. The door and windows were locked and a closed room was established.
Beato, I need some details. Let's reconfirm the definition of a closed room.
Indeed. The term closed room refers to a room where the inside and outside are completely cut off from each other. Naturally, it will be impossible to even affect things from across that boundary line, much less enter or escape across it. This includes an all-inclusive denial of the existence of hidden doors, as well as all possibility of intervention from the outside. Henceforth, this shall be referred to as Beatrice's closed room definition.
Let's focus in a bit. How do you define all possibility of intervention from the outside?
I refer to all types of direct intervention from the outside, such as using a fishing line or a long, thin rod. In conclusion, there are no gaps in the doors and windows through which such tricks will work.
I wonder about that. Even if there wasn't a gap, you should be able to interfere with radio waves, like with a remote control, right?
Very well. I'll add to this definition that interference due to radio waves and related methods of remote control shall be impossible.
There's also an extension telephone in the parlor. A device connected to that wouldn't count as a remote control, right?
The phones are already unusable, are they not? Whatever. I'll include that too. All direct and indirect methods of interfering with the inside of the closed room from the outside of the room are impossible.
What about a voice or a knock? Those should be able to interfere from the outside without someone entering the room, right?
Even though it's a closed room, it probably isn't impossible for someone to knock or call out. The closed room definition does not cover whether transmission of intent across the boundary is possible or not.
In other words, you can't make it so your definition includes the blockage of all methods of communication with the outside?
That is indeed the case.
Understood. So, Shannon-chan's parlor satisfies Beatrice's closed room definition, right?
Correct.
Closed room definition? Understood. Continue, Virgilia.
Yes. Shannon's corpse was in possession of one master key. The relatives who discovered her collected this.
Beato, repeat it. How many master keys this time?
The same as last time. There are 5, one for each servant. which means this still isn't a closed room. There are still 4 master keys left. It just means that after Shannon was murdered, one of the other 4 keys locked it. Correct. And it wasn't only a master key that was found. Yes. Alongside the corpse, there was a western envelope with the family crest. Instead of a letter, the key to a guest room on the 2nd floor was inside it. The key to a 2nd floor guest room? The only key rather than the master key that can open the door to that 2nd floor guest room. Is that definition correct? Indeed, there is no problem. And unlike the master keys, only one of those exists. In other words, apart from the 5 master keys, there will be only one key that can unlock certain rooms. In other words, this is a message telling them to go to the 2nd floor guest room next. So the adults move to the 2nd floor guest room, right? Yes. The door to the 2nd floor guest room was locked and a magic circle was drawn on it. The relatives unlocked it with the key they had found near Shannon's corpse. Inside Kumasawa's corpse was discovered. It was a closed room, one that satisfied Beatrice's closed room definition. Kumasawa was in possession of 1 master key. The relatives collected this. And like in Shannon's case, there was a western envelope discovered alongside her. Inside was the key to the 3rd floor waiting room. The relatives moved to the 3rd floor waiting room. So, there was a magic circle on the door to the 3rd floor waiting room, and that door was locked? Yes. Inside the room, Gota's corpse was discovered. The room was a closed room, one that satisfied Beatrice's closed room definition. Gota was in possession of 1 master key. The relatives collected this. And like up until now, a western envelope with the family seal was discovered, inside of which was the key to the 2nd floor VIP room. The relatives moved to the 2nd floor VIP room. What's going on here? What are you planning? There's no need to glare, is there? It may be a closed room, but there are still multiple master keys that can open it, correct? And besides the master keys, I've even given you keys specific to each room. I don't like where this is going, but I'm starting to see how it'll turn out. So it continues like this for all 6 people? Yes, that is correct. Inside the 2nd floor VIP room, Genji's corpse was discovered. 1 master key was collected. The key to the underground boiler room was discovered. They moved to the underground boiler room. Inside the underground boiler room, Kinzo's corpse was discovered. The key to the chapel was discovered. They moved to the chapel. Inside the chapel, Cannon's corpse was discovered. 1 master key was collected. The key to the 1st floor parlor was discovered. With this, our reconstruction of how all 6 corpses were discovered is complete. An addendum. Along with the key to the chapel, a letter was enclosed in the western envelope found near Kinzo's corpse. The contents of the letter were as you saw. It further urged the relatives to solve the riddle of the epitaph. In that case, what's going on? If the last place where Cannon was had the key to the very first room, the parlor where Shannon was, that makes 6 closed rooms, all tied together, right? That is correct. The 6 closed rooms are all tied together. The keys to unlock each one are all shut up inside the next room. In other words, the 6 closed rooms form one massive closed room. And all of the master keys as well as the individual room keys are shut up inside it. Furthermore, all of the doors and windows on the 6 rooms are normal. No device exists which can lock them without a key, such as an auto lock. What do you think? It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. Once again, milady, that is not dignified. When Ronove rebuked her, Beato stuck her tongue at him without showing any signs of shame. Sorry. Playing with Battle just put me into such a good mood. So, Battler, what do you think of my move? If you can't think of anything in particular, I wouldn't mind showing you how I made the goats carry the corpses. And seal all of the rooms with magic, okay? Do what you want. I'll listen respectfully to this magic theory that you claim is true. However, I can claim my human theory, even though it's completely different from yours, without any interference from your claim. In other words, there's no need for me to pay attention to your bullshit. Go ahead and show me how you can lock the door with your multicolored magic simply by waving your magic staff. Just like those guys with their toad oil and all-purpose kitchen knives. Virgilia, let's reconstruct the crime scene. Search for a weakness. Were they all definitely dead? If one of them is just playing dead, this isn't a closed room at all. Nanjo confirmed that all of them were dead. However, due to the devil's proof, it is impossible to deny the possibility of a wrong diagnosis. In other words, that child cannot make the likelihood that Nanjo overlooked them being alive equal to 0. Here it is, that devil's proof. But there exists a sword that can carve that up. What's up with them? Looks like they're having a good time leaving me out of the discussion. I'm his opponent, am I not? Doesn't he have any time to spare for me? Fundamentally speaking, communication with one's opponent is not necessary to the act of competing in chess. Every time you've communicated with him outside of making your moves, you've used that opportunity to confuse him. Perhaps this is the result of him not wanting to be led astray. For some reason, I don't like it. You are challenging him to a chess match, are you not? That's true, but... Gah. Beatrice puffed out her cheeks as though to say, I don't know why, but I don't like it. Because the police have not yet arrived at the crime scene, the human side's ability to inspect the scene is limited. For a strict confirmation of death, I recommend that you have that child repeat it in red. Okay, that's where I'll strike. Repeat it. The 6 victims are all dead. Milady, he has told you to repeat something in red, has he not? Hey, enough lazing around. Do you refuse to repeat it? This is where our battle starts. What? Oh, whoa. Sorry, that's fine, I'll answer. These 6 are all dead. Kinzo, Genji, Shannon, Kanon, Goda, and Kumasawa. Why are you so out of it? Okay, so I've already got 1 out of you. We'll start by denying that classic trick where the victims are all playing dead. I won't go easy on you anymore. Come at me how you like. I'll slice them slantwise one after another. Then repeat this. No one is hiding in any of the 6 rooms. Let's see you deny the existence of people we aren't aware of. I'll answer. There is no one hiding in the 6 rooms. Okay. Now I'm sure it's only the 6 of them in the can. And they aren't pretending to be dead. What will you do? What will you do? As if a human could manage anything by now. Obediently kneel to the fact that I can control locks at will with my wonderful magic. Okay. Quit babbling. Repeat this too. The 6 deaths were instant deaths. Instant deaths? Oh, what do you mean by that? It means there's a possibility that a single victim on the verge of death managed to escape into the room, and after locking it from the inside to create a closed room, they passed away. A classic closed room murder trick. One requiring that the victim receive a fatal wound, and then die later. It is possible for a closed room to be constructed unexpectedly if the victim holes up inside the room to escape the murderer, and then dies after locking the door. In order to deny that possibility, you will need to proclaim that the six died instantly with the red truth. Very well, very well. I'll slay you with my red treasured sword. The six died instantly. By died instantly, I mean the targets instantly became incapable of action after being attacked. Well, it might still have taken them several seconds or minutes to die in the complete sense of the word. But regardless, it was completely impossible for them to take any actions of their own will. In that sense, I can confirm that they suffered instant deaths. Up until this point, I've just been checking for the classic tricks. Now's when a showdown over the closed room really starts, okay? If the culprit isn't on the inside, they're on the outside. So they somehow killed from outside the rooms. Have you lost your mind? After all, a closed room equals murder is impossible from the outside, right? That's why only a magical murder would be possible. No, that's wrong. The right approach is a murder really happened equals it isn't a closed room. No matter how much you try to trick me, this definitely isn't a closed room. It's a sham that only looks like one. However, Battler-sama, only the victims are inside the rooms, and no other people exist inside the rooms. And by Milady's closed room definition, remote murders from outside the room have been clearly denied, have they not? Wait, the definition of remote murders is pretty broad, right? It's not just about pulling a fishing line from outside the room and strangling the victim from inside the room. For example, a trap would make for an excellent remote murder. A trap? Oh, and what might that be? Just as an example, let's say they were instructed to enter rooms that someone had picked out beforehand, and lock the doors from the inside to create the closed rooms themselves. A trap was set up in those rooms that they didn't know about, and that's what killed them. How's that? That doesn't contradict anything. There are no problems. It corresponds to the existing state. There are no problems on our side either. It does not conflict with Milady's closed room definition. What's with that stupid reasoning? Nothing suspicious was found in any of the rooms, right? What form did that trap have? Where was it hidden? And how did it operate? Explain that for all 6 of them. In the parlor, the guest room, the waiting room, the VIP room, the boiler room, and the chapel? Well, you can't, can you? I refuse to counter that. There's no need for me to explain. And failing to do so doesn't damage my claim. What did you say? Beatrice, it's a devil's proof. The fact that he cannot explain the nature of the trap does not in itself deny the existence of such a trap. Well done, while overbearing a wonderful move. This guy's getting completely used to this. Check. Due to the murder trap X that we couldn't find, it'd be possible to establish this closed room murder. I'll kill that check with the red truth. The 6 were not killed by traps. And the definition of a trap? Oh, that's it. Something that activates when a victim triggers it on their own. Oh, and that's not all. It also includes things activated by remote control or a timer. Everything of that sort. So it refers to all arrangements that could carry out the murder without the direct participation of the one who planned it out. Perhaps we might sum it up that way. How's that? I've struck back. And as if I'd let a human crush this closed room.
You're looking pretty frantic to win, too.
What? What do you mean?
You're frantically fighting to make me accept your existence. Until now, I thought I was just being toyed around with you by you one-sidedly. But that's not actually true. You're also frantically resisting my counters, fighting to show that you exist. Now, I finally really feel that it's true.
This isn't torture inflicted on me over whether I'll surrender or not.
This is a fight between you and me on an even footing. Okay, now it's starting to get interesting, isn't it? All 6 died in closed rooms, and no outsiders were inside. And there was no meddling from the outside, and also no traps. Up until now, I'd probably start suspecting that this had to be the work of magic. And if you decided to show off some bizarre magic at this moment, I might have even have surrendered. It's that favorite strategy of yours. You intercept all my moves, and in the moment I've exhausted all options and fallen to my knees. When my heart's barriers are at their weakest, you show off some strange magic and take the game all at once.
That short temper is something this child has always had, along with the bad habit of rushing things when victory is in sight. After all, milady cannot stand putting off a match. Hey, shut up, shut up! It's Battler's turn, right? I finished off that trap piece you advanced. What should I repeat next? Show me what you've got.
Right. Now that even traps have been defeated, this looks like a perfect closed room murder at a glance. And that's why I'll spin the chessboard around right now.
Here it comes, that special technique of yours. How exactly are you going to spin what around? Try showing me.
Yeah, I'll show you. I don't need to think of how 6 people could be killed inside closed rooms from the outside. Ah, it's useless. It's useless. It's all useless. That's right, the question isn't how you can kill from outside the rooms. The point is how they died inside the rooms, making them closed rooms. That's it. This is the answer. If you assume that one of the 6 victims was the culprit, this closed room can be explained extremely easily.
What? Ridiculous. I believe I clearly said in red that the 6 of them were dead.
No, there were 6 deaths. 5 were victims who got killed. But if you assume that the other person committed suicide, you can destroy this closed room.
Certainly. If the culprit locked themselves in the final closed room and threw away their own life, this closed room chain would be established. The suicide of the culprit. Normally it would be an unthinkable move. But the argument that the unthinkable cannot exist cannot be used, and he has no responsibility to demonstrate a motive. A truly powerful move which can only be used in a chess match against a witch. Well, one cannot be certain that there was no motive. For example, it has been announced that Kinzo only had a short time left to live. Perhaps he did not regret losing his short remaining life and used his own death to send a message. It might be possible to attach such a motive. Milady, it is our turn. Indeed. To think you trample even the dignity of the dead to create a culprit. What a heartless, cold-blooded man.
I'll set up the dead as the culprit. This worse than inhuman move is one you used to attack Canon-kun in the last game. Even though the games are different, I'm taking a shot back at you with this move. As a tribute to Canon-kun for that time. Just now, I freed that Canon-kun from his regrets.
Gah. You have no responsibility to hold back here. You should try to confirm that suicide wasn't the cause of any of their deaths. I recommend that you have that child repeated in red.
Right. But suicide's a naive word that won't corner her. Beato, this'll stop you. Repeat it. The 6 deaths were all homicides.
That is painful.
Oh. What's wrong? All 6 of them were killed, right? I'm just confirming that simple premise we've had from the very beginning, right? Can't you repeat it?
I refuse to repeat it. There's no reason in particular.
You realize that refusing to repeat this part is the same as resigning, right? Checkmate! One of the 6 was the culprit and they planned to commit suicide after constructing the closed room. That's all.
Wait. No, I'll say it. I'll use the red like you want. None of the 6 committed suicide. How's that? Are you satisfied? I've struck back.
What the hell? So you can say it? But that's strange. Why are you so panicky?
It's your imagination. This time even I'm feeling the pressure. That's right, I don't have any leeway. Pay it no mind. The line you asked that child to repeat has been altered. Do not be fooled. Gah! It seems not to have worked, milady.
That's right. She didn't say the 6 deaths were all homicides. She changed it to none of the 6 committed suicide. Which means one of them wasn't killed by someone else and didn't commit suicide. Ah! I've got it. This is the truth. Culprit X, who was hiding among the 6, murdered the other 5 and then set up a closed room. After that, they planned to escape from or hide in that room by some method. However, they got in an accident. The culprit died from an accident that even they hadn't expected, setting up a closed room murder that they hadn't even desired. Now it's over, Beatrice. Checkmate.
Damn it! Did you think I'd be cornered by something like that? I'd never announce my resignation over something like that. I'll slice up that foolish checkmate with my red treasured sword over and over again. None of the 6 died in an accident. What? My apologies. We request some time to strategize. Please allow us a brief postponement on this matter. It's a fair request. Perhaps you should accept it.
Sure, take a break. I've been given those a lot lately. Now it's your turn to take one.
Thank you very much. Come, lady, this way, and let us quietly count to 100 inside our heads. Renove quickly covered Beatrice's mouth with his hand as she grew thoroughly panicked and agitated, suspending the game. He pulled Beato away, supposedly to hold a strategy conference. that demon butler. When Beato got all hot, I had a perfect chance to corner her. Beato normally acted like she was graceful and above it all, but she actually had a really short temper and got mad easily. Her usual intellect had less of a voice when she got excited. Ronove certainly is thinking clearly. He probably gave your opponent some time to cool down. That child grew too stubborn trying to remove your check, and was about to easily let several large pieces go. After all, the first twilight is only a skirmish. The correct move at that time would have been to withdraw. So, what does it mean? Did I reach checkmate or didn't I? That child was about to say something in red. You probably wouldn't have reached checkmate yet, but most likely, you can expect our opponents to resign once they've cooled their heads. You're joking? Even though she hates losing that much? Yes. In a losing battle, it is essential to withdraw your troops as soon as possible to try and minimize your losses. The difficult part is gauging whether it's a losing battle or not. Your opponent's butler seems to have calmly made that decision. Oh well. In other words, she managed to escape by a hair's breadth. Getting checkmate and delivering the final blow won't be that easy for me. However, you should count this as your victory. It seems they barely managed to prevent a large loss, but they certainly sustained considerable damage. The scale of that child's panic ought to make the depths of that wound quite clear to you. Seriously. Feels like she'd start crying if I bullied her anymore. As we talked, Ranove returned with Beato, who wore a meek expression. She didn't yet have her usual bold smile, but it looked like the blood wasn't rushing to her head anymore. Hey, it's your turn. Did you decide on your next move? I resign. For now, I will let you have your victory. Beato told me that frankly. It seemed she'd taken a far-sighted view, as though saying, if you want to laugh, then laugh. It was a bit of a killjoy, and I lost my desire to deliver the final blow. Well, now that you've resigned, that just means we're even, since my theory and yours can't deny each other. You should treat it more like a tie than a loss. I don't need your disgusting sympathy. I'm telling you that I lost this round. When you find a dog drenched with rain, do you have a sudden urge to whack it with a stick or something? Nope. I'm not you. Even though she ridiculed me horribly when I showed signs of defeat, this is the best she's got when the tables are turned. I did feel that was pretty cowardly of her, but I decided to act with dignity as the victor, and let it slide. Beato resigned. That's the one result of the first twilight. Beatrice couldn't counter my move of one of the 6 was the culprit, and that person died in an accident. No, she probably could have countered it, but for some strategic reason she admitted defeat. It felt less like I'd won, and more like I'd let her slip away at the last second. In a chess match with a witch, battles can be fought solely with pieces known as X, which require no detailed explanations. Thanks to the Devil's Proof, I could create as many strange fictions as I wanted and use them as fighters in our argument. But that only works in a chess match with a witch. In our human world, you can't use such abstract theories to explain things. The first twilight was a chain of 6 closed rooms. It certainly may have been possible for a human. Beato wasn't able to deny all possibilities. However, I don't have a clue who committed the crime, or why, or how they actually did it. It may seem strange to hear me saying this after I won, but for some reason, I felt like I'd have been more satisfied if Beatrice had been able to say definitively that it was impossible for humans. I managed to avoid specifics using an abstract piece called X. But I couldn't deny the sense that some eerie intent that must never be known was filling up this entire mansion. And that ends first Twilight. A lengthy one, but I think it's good to get that from start to finish in there. And now, same time. Next, I believe we'll go back to the adults and the epitaph. But we'll see that next time. Thank you for watching.